He was signed to a $28 million endorsement contract and did nothing. Nobody has proof of anything that he did. Zero things. No likes, no retweets, no posts, no tree plant.
Kawhi Leonard is suddenly at the heart of what might be the NBA's biggest scandal to date. The star forward has been hit with a lifetime ban after being tied to a staggering $28 million fraud scheme, and he isn't the only one caught in the fallout. So, how did it all unravel? The story traces back to a money trail that investigators say exposed everything. Leonard, the quiet two-time NBA champion who's long been known as one of the league's most private and mysterious figures, is now making headlines for all the wrong reasons. The controversy didn't begin directly with Leonard, but with the downfall of a little-known financial firm. In March 2025, a so-called green banking startup named Aspiration filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. What looked like just another company collapse soon revealed something far more explosive: defrauded investors, broken deals, and a creditor list that pointed straight into the world of professional basketball. And at the center of it all, Kawhi Leonard, now facing what could go down as the most damaging salary cap scandal in NBA history. Bombshell came when investigative journalist Pablo Torre dug into Aspiration's bankruptcy filings. Buried in the paperwork was an entry that didn't look like much at first. KL2 Aspire LLC owed $7 million. But once Torre traced the company name through California Secretary of State records, the truth began to surface. The KL2 wasn't random at all, it stood for Kawhi Leonard, with the 2 referencing his jersey number. That discovery kicked off a 7-month investigation, producing more than 3,400 pages of contracts, financial records, and evidence that painted a very different picture of the quiet superstar. It turned out the LLC was tied to the final installment of a massive endorsement deal with Aspiration. On the surface, the company had promised to fight climate change by planting trees. But this wasn't a typical celebrity endorsement. The contract was so unusual, so carefully engineered, that even veteran legal experts found themselves stunned. To understand how deep this rabbit hole went, you need to look at the company itself. Aspiration, founded in 2013 by 2 Harvard graduates, Andre Chernay, once the youngest White House speechwriter in U.S. history, and Joe Sandberg, a private equity investor known for cashing in on companies like Blue Apron, marketed itself as the green alternative to traditional banking. The pitch was simple yet powerful. For every transaction customers made, Aspiration would arrange to plant trees, canceling out carbon emissions and giving people the feeling they were making a real difference. It was a business model that sounded noble and generated serious profits.
For example, let's say
strategy was bold enough to look like something straight out of Hollywood. The company built what some called the Avengers of climate change. Robert Downey Jr. lent his unmistakable Iron Man voice to their ads. Leonardo DiCaprio didn't just endorse, he joined as both an investor and an advisor. Drake backed the company too, praising their mission in Rolling Stone. Add in Orlando Bloom, Cindy Crawford, and her daughter Kaya Gerber, and Aspiration had assembled an A-list team that gave them instant credibility. The hype paid off. Investors poured money in, and by 2021, Aspiration had raised a staggering $865 million, soaring to a valuation of $2.3 billion. With corporate giants eager to boost their green image, the company looked set to launch a blockbuster IPO that could make it the face of environmental finance. But behind the star-studded campaigns and glossy promises, the reality was far darker. Federal investigators later discovered that many of Aspiration's claims were either wildly exaggerated or completely fake. Their much-advertised tree planting programs, in many cases, unverified or non-existent. The planet-saving pitch that drew in celebrities and investors was little more than a house of cards built on broken promises.
To my knowledge, out of all of the projects that Aspiration undertook for carbon offsets, there was only one site visit during my tenure.
Wait, so just to be clear, I'm looking at a spreadsheet with a zillion, approximately, projects having to do with forestation and tree plantings.
The full scale of Aspiration's deception finally came to light in August 2025, when co-founder Joe Sandberg admitted guilt in a massive fraud case. He confessed to misleading investors out of an estimated $243 to $248 million. Investigations by both the Department of Justice and the SEC showed that the company had systematically fabricated its success, from fake claims about its financial health to inflated reports of its environmental impact. But as serious as the environmental fraud was, it wasn't the most shocking revelation. Journalist Pablo Torre uncovered something even more explosive. Aspiration's biggest and most secretive endorsement deal wasn't with Leonardo DiCaprio, Drake, or any other celebrity in their star-studded lineup. It was with Kawhi Leonard. The bankruptcy records that triggered Torre's investigation listed KL2 Aspire LLC as being owed a final $7 million payment. That was just one piece of a full-year, $28 million endorsement contract with Leonard, and here's the twist. According to Torre's sources inside Aspiration, this wasn't just another endorsement. The deal was allegedly engineered to skirt NBA salary cap rules, creating a hidden financial pipeline that could shake the very foundation of the league.
And so what I started doing was reaching out to dozens of former Aspiration employees. And I was looking for any information about KL2 Aspire LLC. And what happened was, a grand total of 7 of them ultimately agreed to interviews.
The trail of documents Torre uncovered revealed a plan that was anything but accidental. Internal records showed that Kawhi Leonard's deal wasn't just big, it was massive. In fact, it was Aspiration's single largest endorsement contract, valued at more than 4 times the combined worth of every other celebrity partnership the company had. But unlike Robert Downey Jr., who lent his voice to commercials, or Drake, who gave glowing interviews, Leonard's deal was cloaked in secrecy. And this wasn't just because of his famously quiet, private personality. Torre's deep dive investigation turned up no evidence of Leonard ever promoting the company in any way. No commercials, no public appearances, no interviews, not even a single social media mention. For someone being paid $7 million a year to endorse Aspiration, Leonard's silence was absolute. And that silence raised far more questions than answers.
The grand total number of times that I found Kawhi Leonard ever publicly referencing Aspiration was this.
Ultimately, 0.
0. 0 times.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard mentioned Aspiration.
Leonard's silence wasn't an accident, it was the plan from day one. Torre obtained the signed endorsement contract between Leonard's company and Aspiration, and the fine print revealed something shocking. The deal was structured as a no-show job, where Leonard would collect millions without ever being required to lift a finger in promotion. To grasp why this was so troubling, you have to look at the bigger picture. The NBA's strict salary cap rules and Leonard's ties to the Los Angeles Clippers and their billionaire owner, Steve Ballmer. According to league insiders, the arrangement represented what could be a cardinal sin against competitive balance, a scheme that undermined the very foundation of fair play in professional basketball. The center of it all was Ballmer himself. Nicknamed by investigators as the architect of deception, Ballmer oversaw what appears to be the most sophisticated attempt at salary cap circumvention in NBA history. With a fortune exceeding $100 billion, he wasn't just one of the richest people alive, he was also Aspiration's single largest individual investor and the owner of the Clippers, the team now employing Leonard. The timeline makes the plot even clearer. In August 2021, Leonard signed a standard-looking full-year, $176 million extension with the Clippers. Just 1 month later, Ballmer made a move that would become the cornerstone of the entire scheme, a decision that would eventually set off alarms all across the NBA's investigative playbook.
The month after that, it turns out, Steve Ballmer, this is September, broke ground on the Intuit Dome. Now, this is, David, the most expensive NBA arena ever constructed.
In September 2021, Steve Ballmer officially broke ground on the Clippers' new home, the Intuit Dome. At the same time, he unveiled a blockbuster announcement. Aspiration would become the arena's founding partner in a jaw-dropping $300 million, 23-year sponsorship deal. Marketed as the partnership that would make the Intuit Dome the greenest arena in the world, it perfectly matched Ballmer's public image as a champion of sustainability, but the most critical detail came months later. Torre's investigation revealed that in November 2021, just 2 months after Ballmer's investment and sponsorship announcement, Kawhi Leonard quietly registered KL2 Aspire LLC with the state of California. That timing, sources inside Aspiration later admitted, was anything but random. It was the groundwork for what appears to have been a calculated scheme to dodge NBA salary cap rules. The contract Tor uncovered told the full story. Leonard's four-year, $28 million endorsement deal, effective April 1, 2022, was unlike anything seen in pro sports. It was designed to guarantee maximum payment with virtually zero obligation. Hidden clauses ensured Leonard couldn't realistically breach the contract, no matter how little he did to actually promote aspiration. What looked like an endorsement on paper was, in practice, a financial pipeline disguised as a business deal.
Nothing. He didn't have to do anything. There was a clause for an out in every single KPI. So they weren't actually key performance indicators, KPI.
The fine print of Leonard's contract was unlike anything industry experts had ever seen. Instead of resembling a standard endorsement deal, it read more like a guaranteed payout agreement. Leonard was given sweeping power to control all content and distribution tied to his name. In practice, that meant he could veto any promotional request from Aspiration and still get paid in full. Another clause went even further. Leonard could decline any action if he simply felt it didn't align with his personal beliefs, no questions asked. When David Sampson, the former Miami Marlins president and a seasoned sports contract analyst, reviewed the document for Tor's investigation, his reaction was one of pure disbelief. The obligations placed on Leonard were almost non-existent. He was required to sign just 50 items, post a mere 5 organic social media interactions, and provide 1 photo per month during the NBA season. And the most stunning part? Leonard didn't even meet those minimal requirements.
You may wonder how many likes and retweets did he give?
Is it 0?
Of course it's 0!
Oh my God!
He did nothing! He literally did nothing!
The most revealing piece of the contract came in the termination clause, and it exposed the deal for what it truly was. The agreement could be cancelled if Leonard was no longer a member of the Clippers, directly tying his payments to his employment with the team. This wasn't about Kawhi Leonard's global brand or his marketability as a superstar. It was about one thing: his role as a Clippers player. The contract language made that undeniable. The financial setup behind it was deceptively simple yet incredibly damning. Steve Ballmer personally poured $50 million into Aspiration through his private LLC, Pulpat. That money became central to funding Leonard's enormous contract. Ballmer's contribution wasn't small change, either. It was part of a larger $315 million funding round that pushed Aspiration's valuation to $2.3 billion in December 2021. In other words, Ballmer wasn't just writing checks, he was building the financial bridge that carried money from Aspiration straight to his star player.
Now, less than a month after that, December 2021, it was announced that Steve Ballmer, who is again hailed as the very best investor of the last 20 years, joined Oaktree Capital Management in investing a total of $315 million into Aspiration, which was subsequently valued at $2.3 billion.
Tor's investigation uncovered a stunning detail. According to 7 separate sources inside Aspiration, Steve Ballmer's massive cash injection was the very reason the company could afford Kawhi Leonard's $28 million contract. One former employee, speaking under voice modulation to protect their identity during the ongoing federal probe, delivered explosive testimony. They revealed that within Aspiration, Leonard's deal was openly referred to as salary cap circumvention. Executives allegedly joked about the arrangement, fully aware of how improper it was, even as they signed off on it. The numbers made the scheme impossible to ignore. Leonard's agreement wasn't just Aspiration's biggest endorsement, it was bigger than all their other celebrity contracts combined, by a factor of 4. And yet, Leonard never lifted a finger in actual promotion. What was marketed as an eco-friendly partnership looked, from the inside, like a carefully disguised payout designed to bypass league rules.
And then, oh, by the way, we also have a marketing deal with Kawhi Leonard, a $28 million organic marketing sponsorship deal with Kawhi. And that, if I had any questions about it, essentially don't, because it was to circumvent the salary cap, LOL.
Steve Ballmer's role went far beyond writing checks. Internal emails obtained by Tor revealed that the Clippers owner was actively opening doors and brokering connections on Aspiration's behalf. In one November 2021 message, Bulmer personally introduced the company's co-founders to the CEO of Intuit, praising their shared passion for the Clips and our Intuit Dome project. In effect, Bulmer wasn't just an investor, he was operating like an unofficial spokesperson for the company. The ties ran even deeper when it came to Kawhi Leonard. Sources confirmed that Clippers officials arranged the introduction between Leonard and Aspiration in early November 2021, right after Leonard registered his LLC and just as Bulmer's $50 million investment was being finalized. While NBA rules technically allow team owners to make introductions, the timing raised serious red flags about intent and coordination. When you lay out the pieces, the sophistication of the scheme becomes clear. Bulmer supplied the funding. Aspiration acted as the payment conduit. Leonard received compensation that appeared independent of his NBA deal but was clearly tethered to his role as a Clippers star. The brilliance of the setup was in its design. On the surface, it looked legitimate, an eco-focused company partnering with a superstar athlete. In reality, it was a system built to dodge the rules. And for years, it worked. For all of Aspiration's flashy sponsorships and celebrity-backed campaigns, Kawhi Leonard's $28 million contract remained invisible. It was never announced, never promoted, and never even whispered about publicly. The only reason it surfaced at all was because Pablo Torre dug through obscure bankruptcy filings most people would never think to check. What he uncovered was staggering. Internal emails showed that even as Aspiration's finances unraveled in 2022, Leonard's payments were treated as untouchable. Former employees recalled weekly meetings where executives debated who would and wouldn't get paid as money ran dry. Vendors, creditors, even staff members went unpaid, but Leonard's contract was always honored first. The pressure to keep those payments flowing often came from one man, Dennis Robertson, better known as Uncle Dennis, Leonard's longtime advisor and uncle. Multiple sources confirmed that Robertson routinely called Aspiration demanding payment, and every time, those demands were treated as a top priority, even as the company was collapsing around them.
One being that Kawhi's uncle was calling.
Wait, this is Uncle Dennis.
Uncle Dennis. Uncle Dennis was calling, and Uncle Dennis demanded payment. It was priority one. It was something that had to be done, and it was crucial to our relationships with Bulmer and the Clippers.
The evidence doesn't point to chance. The timing of events, the extension of Leonard's Clippers contract, Bulmer's $50 million investment, the massive arena sponsorship, and Leonard's hidden endorsement deal formed a sequence too precise to be coincidence. The pattern suggested careful planning and coordination, not opportunistic fraud. While all parties have denied any improper collaboration, the alignment becomes harder to dismiss when viewed against Bulmer's background. As the former CEO of Microsoft and one of the richest men on the planet, Bulmer had both the resources and the expertise to design complex financial structures that could fly under the radar. His stake in Aspiration wasn't just a philanthropic gesture or a business bet. It became the financial engine that powered Leonard's secret payments, allowing the scheme to function while giving everyone involved a thin layer of plausible deniability. As you'll see, this elaborate scheme was never built to last. Under the weight of its own contradictions, and the watchful eye of federal investigators, it began to crumble. What emerged was nothing short of spectacular, a financial web linking Steve Ballmer, Kawhi Leonard, an aspiration that unraveled into what authorities now call one of the boldest fraud schemes in modern sports history. Its collapse has rocked the NBA establishment, setting the stage for penalties more severe than anything the league has handed down in over 20 years. The first cracks appeared in 2022, when Aspiration's finances started buckling despite having raised hundreds of millions from high-profile investors. Former employees described a company that couldn't pay its bills, couldn't meet basic obligations, yet somehow always found a way to keep Kawhi Leonard's checks flowing. That pattern of preferential treatment would later become a smoking gun, helping investigators connect the dots and uncover the true nature of Leonard's secret relationship with Aspiration.
There were weekly meetings about who was going to get paid what and when, and during those weekly meetings, Kawhi Leonard's contract was always set to be paid.
Even in a time of total financial hardship for the company. Why?
By 2024, the federal probe was no longer just background noise, it was in full swing. Multiple agencies, including the Department of Justice, the SEC, and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission began pulling Aspiration apart piece by piece. What they uncovered went far deeper than exaggerated green promises. This was systematic fraud, stretching into investor deception and large-scale financial manipulation. The investigation hit a turning point in August 2025 when co-founder and political figure Joe Sandberg pleaded guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud. In his admission, he confessed to defrauding investors out of at least $248 million. Almost immediately, the SEC dropped its own charges, revealing that Sandberg had raised more than $300 million through elaborate schemes built on fake revenues and falsified sustainability claims. Sandberg's guilty plea tore the mask off Aspiration's carefully crafted image. Internal documents showed just how deep the deception ran. Not only were the company's financial statements fabricated, but as much as 90% of its supposed deals and agreements never even existed. Investors, including Steve Ballmer himself, had been sold a fantasy, completely misled about what Aspiration was really doing and how much money it was actually making.